Welcome back, everybody, to the Podecito podcast. I am your host, The Real 469. Thank you for joining me as we journey episode by episode through our collective favorite show. Of course, I'm talking about the incomparable Las Vegas. This episode right here is episode 23 of the series and the season, don't you know? It is the season finale for the first season. Look at that. We got through a whole season together, folks. You and me, look at that. We've only got a few more to go. We are here. We are here for the long haul. Always Faithful aired May 17th, 2004 originally. This episode is a heavy episode. IMDb rates it at 8.3 out of 10. Las Vegas dashed the series via the Wayback Machine. Go ahead and support the Wayback Machine if you can. Rates it a 4.5 out of 5. Giving it an aggregate rating from both of those spots at 8.65 out of 10 or B/B+ episode. This, I don't even know where to put this one, personally. I will give you a rating at the end of this episode because it is still hard for me to really contemplate this one. It's a heavy episode. Putting notes together for this show means that I have to watch the episodes over and over again. Specifically for the music. I have to see what they're playing on the DVD. I have to see what they're playing on Peacock. I have to see what they're playing on Roku and Amazon. And for me and other places. And for me to go through that every time with this show and go through the emotions every time with this episode, it's rough. But it does start the tradition, especially of the season finales of Las Vegas, where things are happening at such a fast clip. Like, it's hard to really slow down and take anything in. So we've got a lot to go through here. So let's get right down to the business at hand. This episode was directed by the prolific Timothy Busfield, and it was written by Gary Scott Thompson.
He's the puppet master!
He is the puppet master, Sam. Yes, he is. We start the episode... Man, we're going to go through a lot. There's not going to be a whole lot of laughs in this one. We're going to go through a lot. We start the episode whooshing across that... Look at the beautiful... Las Vegas Strip. That is just amazing. And we whoosh in and we zoom in on a couple of people as they take in the sights of Vegas. This beautiful strip. Now, mind you, it's clearly green screened. There's no way they could do this outside of green screen. Also, it looks like it's green screened. They're doing a panoramic shot, 360 shot around them. Not nearly as cool as Danny and Ed in the beginning of the show. But, you know, this one is to establish who, at least these two people, being important enough to this episode. It's a young woman, young brunette woman. We finally got a brunette. Young brunette woman, as well as a much older gentleman who looks like he's from the old school Vegas days. He pans around and he says, Vegas sure has changed, as we see that he is at least supposed to be in the Montecito parking lot.
Vegas sure has changed.
We whoosh through the valet area into the Montecito. Really, we're whooshing through the Bellagio. But we start with one of my favorite queens, the lovely Mary Connell, played by Nikki Cox here, with that smile, that hair, that everything, as she signs some papers. Very reminiscent of the first whoosh of the season, where I believe we had to have whooshed through Mike first, through valet, then through Mary. But very reminiscent of that. We then whoosh through to someone getting change for a $100 bill. They have the on-site changers there. I don't know if they still have those, actually. The last time I was there, I don't remember seeing them. Anyway, that's very important that we see this $100 bill being changed, because that $100 bills are going to be very important to this episode, you see. We then whoosh again over to Mike helping out a group of young people, 3 women, 3 men. If you take this whoosh slowly, if you watch it slowly and take it frame by frame, The young blonde lady is staring directly at the camera. She is staring, I mean, directly at the camera. And if you go frame by frame, she is staring directly at you. Her eyes follow you and everything. Like, she is staring through that camera. I almost feel like she's trying to steal your soul there. I mean, she looks directly at that camera. We then whoosh past Mike as he's helping direct them over to my other favorite, Queen Nessa Holtz, as she watches the armed guards pull some money out from one of the blackjack boxes. Apparently there's been some heavy action today. Mike's guests go their way. Mike passes the guys who are carrying some of the money, and the guy, the older gentleman and his young confidant come back and say, Vegas sure has changed. And she says, that's her first line of the episode. Mike comes up to them because they appear to be lost.
You seem lost. Can I help you?
I'm looking for Big Ed DeLine.
Are you a friend?
You might say I'm about to be a business associate.
Interesting. Before we get to this next spot, since we're here in this area, we're going to talk about the musical cue that this first scene mostly encompasses. If you're watching on the original version, Surreal, you have the original version? No, I don't have the original version. But if you happen to have the original version, the song you're going to hear is Monkey Man by Toots and the Maytals. M-A-Y, maybe Maytals? M-A-Y-T-A-L-S. But the version featuring No Doubt, because this song is a lot older, the version that we hear here is the version featuring No Doubt. If you're watching on the DVD, the song is Easy Up by Nick Welsh. And if you're watching on any of the streaming services, the song is probably an AI song. Definitely a production song. Couldn't track it anywhere. But it does talk about Mr. Big Time. You think you're this, that, Mr. Big Time. It's very much still in the same vibe, though. The same ska vibe. So that's they at least stuck with the similar tone. So that really, if you were listening hard enough, it would be hard for you to really tell unless you were paying super close attention or had your Shazam out. And so we get to see another one of our queens of the Montecito, Vanessa Marcel, a.k.a. Samantha Jane Marquez, as she comes up to greet Mary. Now, this scene is interesting because as soon as she sees Mary, Mary is in a light green sweater over the dress that we saw her in the original Whoosh. The very next cut that we see, not of Mary, but of Sam talking to Mary, that sweater's gone, and we never see the sweater again in this episode. So, continuity error here. That was a good note, because I didn't catch it until the very last viewing, but that is a good note. This sweater is only here for this 13 seconds or so. As we see them conversing, they're talking about Ben Jellin, who's going to be in this episode a bit later. He's going to help rip our hearts out. He is. And we're about to get him ripped out right now, because Sam comes up to Mary and says that there's someone here to see her.
Mary!
Hey, sweetie. Where's Ben Yellen?
You just missed him. What's up?
Oh, well, there's a man in Belisara looking for you. He says he's your dad.
Now, take note of how Sam said that, because she said that in a way to denote that if anybody at the Montecito would have a great relationship with their father, it would be Mary. Because Mary is Little Miss Sunshine lollipops and rainbows and everything. And she believes in romance and love and all the things that we were all taught to believe in via Disney movies. So one would think your dad is here is a good surprise. If you didn't know. But we know. And Mary knows. And the facial expression on Nikki Cox changes very fast as she moves over and she sees him in the Belisara. She asks where Danny is. Sam clocks the change in her demeanor, and Mary says,
I'm fine. How's security escort him out? He's your father. You're right. I'll throw him out myself.
This scene, give her the Emmys. Let's go.
What are
you doing here?
Look at you all
Get out!
grown up.
Get out!
Hoping
Don't
you could talk.
you dare touch me!
That whole scene. We're talking 10, maybe 15 seconds. There's so much that happens in that scene. From the way he looks at her, from his look in general, which we'll talk a little bit more about a little bit later when we see him again, from what he says, look at you all grown up, from the way she recoils as he gets anywhere near her, from the way she storms off, her voice, her cadence. That alone is a powerful scene. We are less than 2 minutes into this episode. That alone is a powerful scene. We've got 42 more minutes to go. And the scenes are going to hit just as hard as that. We continue the whoosh back over to the money changers, taking it down, obviously, to the vault as we go into the elevator. We continue back up with the festive ska music. And we see Delinda for the first time this episode.
Load it all up in my car, boys. Just joking. You money handlers have no sense of humor whatsoever.
Well, guess what, Delinda? There's a reason for that. It's because...
We've got counterfeit bills.
I got him here too. Yeah.
The entire take of hundreds from Blackjack 19 is counterfeit.
I'm on my way.
And there's Big Ed in the line. He's seeing the whole thing. And we whoosh back down to the lobby floor. Mike ushers the Marines into the hotel. They ask for...
Lieutenant McCoy. It's Danny. Not anymore, sir. Welcome to the war, Lieutenant.
As that scene happens, we are met with the musical stylings of Creedence Clearwater Revival. They are an amazing band. You should look up their whole discography. They are tremendous. This is not the only time we're going to see them in this episode. We do get to hear Fortunate Son on all the incarnations. Thank you so much, NBC, for keeping that in all the incarnations. It is meaningful. You need that for this episode. Danny looks over the paperwork he's given. Mike thinks it's some sort of...
You got some kind of Marine reunion coming up?
Yeah, you could call it that. I've been recalled to active duty. I deploy in 24 hours.
Mike's jaw is somehow lower than the paper that Danny's got in his hand. And it's interesting the lines that we hear from that song, Fortunate Son, in this scene. The very powerful line, "I ain't no senator's son," rings true to me, but we're going to see how Danny reacts to this news. We then cut to the intro. The best damn intro in the business. You're watching this on a streaming service and it asks you if you want to skip the intro, feel free to skip that streaming service. Or don't. Like, I'm not coming in with a military court order. Like, you can go AWOL on what I just said if you want it. This episode, while we have just a second, was written for Josh and for the country, according to the Puppet Master himself and Josh Duhamel, as they went through the DVD commentary for season 1, just because of where the country was at the time and the idea of somebody being recalled into the military. Apparently both Josh and Gary had people that they knew that at one point or another were recalled to the military after they had already served. That is the story that they've given on the DVD. On IMDb, the story is that Danny is recalled to service really to justify the haircut that he will have to have for Transformers movie that he's going off to film. Now, whether you believe that or not, who do you believe? I don't know who you believe. Who would you believe? Do you believe, I'll put this as a poll. Do you believe the story that Danny had to that they wrote this episode to explain Josh's haircut in the Transformers movie? Or do you believe the story that GST wrote this story about Danny going back to the military because of where we were in the country at the time in 2004? Now, we're not going to get into politics here in this episode too deep or on this show, really almost at all, other than what we see here in the episode. That's not this show. That's not this podcast. But, I don't know. Like, it's funny. I just saw that note on IMDb, and it's like, that does sound like something Hollywood would do. While we're on the subject of the DVD extras, which is another point in the favor of physical media, in the DVD extras, one of the notes that we got here that won't fit anywhere else, so we might as well put them in here, is that they filmed or they recorded their DVD extra, Josh and GST did, while they were doing the 8th episode of the 2nd season. That episode was the Crossing Jordan episode, Two of a Kind, the one where Jordan and Woody come to the Montecito, which is another favorite of season 2 of mine. That's a great episode. This episode, the season finale here, Always Faithful, was shot in 8 days, according to GST and Mr. Duhamel. So we come back from the intro just to see Ed in the safe with Nessa, as well as the guy who called up to Ed to talk about the counterfeit hundreds that they got from Blackjack 19, all of which, apparently these forged hundreds were very, very good. He wouldn't have noticed any other way. And what he says is that the watermark looks a little off on his. Now, the thing is that there are rules to showing money on television to prevent forging. And so the watermark gimmick that he was talking about here isn't true, or at least parts of it isn't true, or how it was done isn't true, because it can't be. That's why sometimes when you see money on television specifically, sometimes movies, but very often TV, the bills don't look right, they don't look good, they look fake. That's because they have to be fake, like they're supposed to be. Like there's a reason. There are certain rules with how close you can show the bill, with what you can show on the bill, etc. And I'm sure with some productions, sometimes it's just cheaper just to get fake looking money and just kind of pretend like nobody's paying attention to it. So those are the rules. What he was talking about, not necessarily true. Nessa apologizes for not catching the forgeries, but apparently, again, missing the fact that the guy just said that they were so good, he wouldn't have noticed if the machine hadn't caught them. So it bypassed everybody how good these forgeries were. Now, we watch Nessa here, and as we do, we notice that she's wearing glasses in this episode, and she put them on at the beginning in the intro too. We learn via the DVD extra that unfortunately Marsha Thompson had an eye infection this week, so she had to wear her specs, as I'm sure they say, across the pond. Maybe they say it, I don't know. So Ed tells Nessa to call the Secret Service, and he's concentrating solely on the money issue. Danny comes in immediately and tells him that he's being deployed in 24 hours. Nessa can't believe it. Ed is registering it, but he immediately gets a call from Delinda, saving his butt.
Ed, I'm sorry. I should have caught this at the table. I accept full responsibility.
I mean, there's no way you would have found this out. Listen, call the Secret Service, tell them what we got. They're going to want to see this stuff as soon as possible. Then, call Metro and tell Luis to notify all the other casinos in case, Hey, by the way, where the hell you been?
I'm being deployed in 24 hours.
Where to?
It's classified.
Ed doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want to deal with Danny leaving. Me neither, Ed. This next scene is a very interesting scene for both Sam and Mary. Mary stomps into Mystique, clearly still shaken. And Sam is following her, asking her if she's okay. So much so, and Sam legitimately is showing affection and care for her friend, Mary, because she blows off a call. When have you ever known Sam to... The last time we saw Sam blow off a call, she was cornered in an elevator by Richard Allen Wesley. That's the last time we saw it. She never dismisses a call. And even then, before that, the last call she dismissed was Richard Allen Wesley's call. So from a client, Sam is going to take that call above all else except her friends. And that is a good thing to see from our resident hummingbird, that in the clamshell that she's opened up to Mary. And Mary definitely needs some care right now, but she's being strong, maybe to her own detriment. She is shooing Sam away.
Mary? Yeah, this is Sam. I'll have to call you back. Mary. Hey. What's that all about?
It was just a little family reunion.
Oh, Christmas morning must have been real fun around your house.
You only knew.
Sam knows that there's something wrong with Mary. And she knows Mary is not okay. Mary's on the verge of she's on the verge of, she is a hair's pin away from crying. And that's why she wants Sam to go away, because she doesn't want Sam to see her cry. And Sam knows this, and she registers it, and she knows that right now maybe the best thing for Mary is to just kind of leave her alone. And as she does, Mary goes off to a corner of Belisara and starts bawling. We see Mike walk through the casino, and he meets Ed and Nessa, and Nessa can't comprehend the callback to active duty thing, but apparently it is a thing, especially when you're in the reserves, and we're later going to find out that Danny is, in fact, in the reserves. Ed asks Mike for some help on the $100 counterfeiting, and so he's going to be brought into surveillance one more time to help out the surveillance team. Nessa and Ed are met by Delinda, who introduces Ed to Fast Tommy.
Oh, where is this guy?
Right there.
Who's the girl?
I'm hoping his granddaughter.
Listen, if not, good for him. We'll find out a little bit later. And we get to meet Fast Tommy, and what we will later find out... Well, we'll talk about Fast Tommy here first. Fast Tommy Pallone was played by the late great actor Richard Bacalian. Richard's first credited role was with Sophia Loren and Anthony Quinn in Attila. He also did an episode of Mike Hammer. He then, continuing on the Las Vegas track, was in a TV movie called Las Vegas Beat as Lieutenant Bernard McFeety in 1961. Continuing the Vegas trend, he starred with the Rat Pack as Robbo's Hood in Robin and the Seven Hoods in 1964. Continuing that trend, he moved into another movie with Sinatra called None But the Brave as Captain Rufino. He then went on to do 6 episodes of Batman, the 1966 version, as Verdigris, Arbutus, Fudd Sphinx, and a couple other characters as well. That's dope. That's actually pretty dope. He then goes on to do Chinatown, just classic, in 1974. He does an episode of The Love Boat, as ancestor of Las Vegas. He does an episode of Fantasy Island, another ancestor of Las Vegas. He also goes on to do an episode, actually 5, of Vegas. Not that, the 1978 Vegas, so it was before Las Vegas. It's before our Las Vegas, with Tony Curtis and Robert Urich as Freddie Fingers Bronson and as Bernie for 5 episodes. He goes on to do Sledgehammer for an episode. We talked about Sledgehammer before. That was great. He does 2 episodes of Baywatch Nights, which is just a cheese-tastic ass show. He does this episode of Las Vegas, and the last credit that he has is in another NBC show, My Name is Earl, as Mr. Wallace in 2008. That was the last credited thing that he has. He passed away in February 27th, actually. Not far from when I'm recording this. I'm recording this on the 26th. The anniversary of his passing will be on the 27th. In 2015, at 84 years old. That is Richard Bacalian. Richard Bacalian is Fast Tommy Pallone, and he is meeting Big Ed DeLine for the first time, and he's not impressed.
You don't look so big to me.
What's that?
Big Ed DeLine?
I'm big enough.
But Big Ed is courteous to Mr. Pallone and asks him a little bit of history about his time in Vegas before.
I assume you're the same Fast Tommy Pallone that ran with Bugsy Siegel.
The one and only.
Well, what can I do for you, Mr. Pallone?
Get off my property.
Excuse me?
I own this land. I won it in a poker game over 50 years ago.
I see.
Your lawyers have a copy for verification.
And exactly who is she?
My lawyer.
Oh, that's some lawyer.
The best.
That's some lawyer indeed. That lawyer is played by Elena Lyons. Elena Lyons has been in a few different things. She's known by something a little bit different now, but let's see where she's from. Her first credited role was in Saved by the Bell: The College Years, still on NBC, in '93 for an episode. She then did an episode of USA High. Remember I talked about how terrible that show was? She did that as well. She did that in an episode of, or a movie rather, with former guest star Jennifer Lyons in Devil's Prey. She did this episode as Carrie LaRoche is her name. I don't know if we're actually going to hear her name, but her character's name here is Carrie LaRoche. The last credited role that she has on her IMDb is in 2012 as Polly McKenzie in The In-Betweeners. She now goes by her married name Elena Cardone after she married Grant Cardone, and she is big on the internet scene there. So that is Elena Lyons. Yeah, it's the same woman. Hold on a second. Let's get a new deck in here, and we'll be right back.
Yeah, this shit's a whole vibe. In this bitch the whole night. They be playing both sides. Trust in them. And I stay by my bro side. Can't fuck with the whole tide. We be with the whole squad. Can't let them win. Yeah, this shit's a whole vibe.
You're listening to Whole Vibe from Jesse Evans' album Space Jams. If you like what you're hearing, you want to hear more, hear it again, or both, just go to tinyurl.com/EvansVibe. That's tinyurl.com/EvansVibe.
I'm back on my bullshit. No mic, but I'm shooting and I'm back with a full clip. Pay attention to the flows I'm delivering. Cut off of my bros to my hoes.
She is some lawyer, some impressive lawyer enough that she went to Yale. And Nessa and Delinda don't exactly believe her, but I believe it. Like, why not? Why can't she? If Mike could go to MIT, why can't she go to Yale? She can be hot and successful too at the same time. So Ed and Big Ed, Fast Tommy are talking about exactly what Ed and Tommy can do with the casino, and the fact that apparently Bugsy Siegel, the degenerate, terrible gambler that he was, and I can say that because he's been gone long enough that any of his enforcers probably aren't alive to even listen to this podcast right now. And Tommy's got some suggestions.
We have a 50-story resort casino built on this property here.
Then knock it down.
Well, I'm afraid we can't just knock it down.
Well, then I will run it.
I don't know that I've ever seen anyone try to big league Ed like that, but Ed doesn't brush him off. Ed doesn't try to big league him back. He's got respect for Fast Tommy. He's got respect for the history that Fast Tommy's got, so we'll see how that plays out in this episode. Another little note here, apparently Fast Tommy Pallone was supposed to be played by Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas was supposed to come in and play Fast Tommy, but the way that the script ran out, or was printed out, came out, Fast Tommy's role was a little bit too small, and they didn't want to bring Kirk Douglas in just for something that short, just for a couple of scenes. So they ended up trying to configure a different way to bring him in. I don't think they ever did, but according to the DVD, that's what they were trying to do. As we pan through to Mike and Danny going through the hall, I believe in the beige suit, there's two women talking, one in beige, one in orange. I believe in the beige suit, according to the DVD extras, that the woman in the beige suit is Carla Marin, not the hacker du jour that we saw in the Alec Baldwin episode. No. This is the inspiration for that. That's the name that we got. Remember her? Remember that hacker? Her name? She's named after her. She's a PA here. She got to appear in this episode, which is really cool. You can see the giant smile on her face.
So how you doing with this whole callback to the Marines thing?
It caught me a little off guard.
And Mike notes that Ed is acting like he's the one shipping out.
You probably know something.
Wait a minute, aren't you in an active reserve? And active reserves are never called back.
Well, if circumstances warrant their activation, they are.
Then they must need you for something pretty special, right?
And in that scene, we do a small little whoosh, and we see, again, using great economy of space. And I don't think that's their hallway, because that hallway looks slightly different. We see an economy of space. We see Ed, Tommy, and the attorney going up to Ed's office. And Ed quickly asks Tommy if he...
You were serving a life sentence for murder. How'd you get out?
Good behavior.
Of course.
And we whoosh back to the surveillance room. And see, this is the fast-paced, the frenetic energy of this episode. And they mention it in the DVD that one of the tricks of this episode is that everything happening at the same time. There's no real moment to sit and rest with what you're hearing. So Mike talks about the U.S. currency, and he starts to go into not techno babble, but the kind of babble that a technical guy would go into on a show like this about how the dollars are forged and the history of forging U.S. money. But Danny has a faraway look on his face, and even though he smiles when he says, "Sorry, Mike," you can tell something's up with Danny. And this transformation of Danny is going to carry over past this episode. So it's a real transformation. That little scene where he says, "Sorry, Mike," and he's got the faraway look on his face and the smile that's not all the way there, that grin that's not so goofy, that carries over. And Mike asks if he knows why he's being recalled, and Danny just looks at him and moves right past it. Because I think he does.
I know I get a little long-winded sometimes, but at least give a brother a courtesy nod.
Sorry, Mike.
You know why you're being recalled, don't you?
Pretty good idea.
We see Danny ask Mitch to run back the footage from Blackjack 19 and the last shift, and in the DVD commentary we hear that Mitch's family really loved the fact that Mitch got the recurring role here in Las Vegas, and that initially he didn't have a name, but James Caan just started calling him by his real name, and everybody liked him, and it took. And that's not an uncommon story that you hear on shows like this. If you were a fan of Scrubs at all, so Scrubs has a lot of side characters. And the side characters, most of them were extras. That because Scrubs was filmed in a real-life former hospital, meaning that they didn't have to go on a different set, it all became a family. So the extras started being around all the time and getting lines and getting storylines, and a couple got married on the show, and it became a whole thing because the writer started encompassing more and more stuff around them, more and more characters around them, more and more of the character traits of the people around them, and the fans got involved too when they started naming different extras that they saw in the back, etc. And so that happens. It's not an impossible thing to happen. It happens it at least used to happen all the time on shows like this. I don't know how much it happens anymore, but it definitely happened on shows like this, especially around this era. We then go through that footage up to Ed's office, and we see the attorney, and Ed gives Tommy the big chair.
No. If you want to run things, you got to sit over here. Ed. There you go. I got to tell you, Tommy, things have changed in 50 years. Forget about it. I mean, everything is computerized. We got cell phones, digital cameras. Sit here about it. While you're sitting here, now take a look over here. That's Blackjack 19, pit number 3. Now, we just pulled a whole bunch of counterfeit hundreds out of that drop box. So you keep an eye on that. I'm sure you can handle that. And then, let me see. That, five, a light one. Damn it. Anyway, I'll be right back.
Light wand? What the hell is a light wand?
That's a good way to show that Fast Tommy is immediately out of his league in this. And to show that Ed is going to give Fast Tommy the respect that he deserves, at least so far. And he's not trying to play Tommy, but he's got a couple things to juggle, and he's going to juggle them well. He's got a few things to juggle this episode, actually. He's going to juggle them well. As he does, the Montecito attorneys come in, and they basically say that Fast Tommy's note seems to be legally binding, and that the piece of land that Fast Tommy owns is basically in the middle of the casino. So then Mike initiates he's already initiated the first kind of faraway stare and ignoring of the subject, of deep details of the subject that Danny's going to do, but he continues on that trend right here. Because he asks Danny, can he just tell the Marines that he can't go? And Danny just looks at him like he's got a third head growing out of his second head growing out of his nose.
Can't you just tell the Marines you have a job? Just some kind of deferment?
Like, that is not an option for Danny. Danny's a good soldier. Danny's a good Marine. And he is not go. You might as well ask Danny not to breathe. We then go through the conference area, and the attorneys are talking to Ed about the situation. And they were basically saying that they are just going to tie Tommy up in litigation for the next few years. He doesn't have any living relatives. He can't hold out that long. They're just going to tie him up. So even if his claim is legit, which is, by the way, a very common legal strategy, is to just tie you up, is to make everything last forever. Make it last forever. That's what they do. That's what you're supposed to. That's just part of the legal game. And that's why the idea of a speedy trial, the idea of things going through the system and it not taking forever, it takes forever. And it takes forever on purpose so that you hopefully just get worn out or lose money in trying to fight it so that you can't afford to fight it anymore to get what's supposed to be rightfully yours. And the attorneys are fairly annoying. Fairly annoying. This female attorney, she acts like the person who has never been cool ever and has only kind of tangentially heard of cool things, especially when she says stuff like,
and Bugsy got whacked before the transfer was complete. Isn't that what they call it, whacked?
Land's been bought, sold, and parceled out numerous times.
Ed has no time for her. Ed has no time for any of them. He wants to get this man what he rightfully deserves one way or the other. And the attorneys are talking about that he has a case. Ed is talking about let's buy him out.
I know it may sound strange to a group of lawyers to actually do the right thing, but this guy paid his debt to society, spent more than 50 years in prison for a crime that was arguably self-defense.
He could hold us hostage, and there'd be nothing you could do about
He
it.
could set his own price, force us to buy at a premium.
He is an old man. Let's just give him what he's got coming, for God's sakes. Please, give him what he has coming.
Well, that'll be the casino. That'll be the casino.
Stop. God.
Here's my question in watching all of this, especially now. Where's Brunson? Like, okay, the attorney's got to get involved. Where's Brunson? Are they trying to come up with a strategy before they go to Brunson? Ed is in charge of the Montecito, but Ed doesn't own the Montecito. This feels like something that would be over the president of operations' head. This feels like something that would fall squarely in the lap of the person who owns the person, the company, the entity that owns that plot of land. At least right now, legally owns that plot of land. And I promise you, I guarantee you, Austin, that Brunson and his attorneys would do exactly what they're talking about in that conference room. Bury him in the litigation, wait until it takes forever to do, so that he doesn't have any legal relatives, little do they know what we'll find out later in this episode, and drag it on until long past the time that he's dead. But the show has to show, and so Ed has to be the one in charge of this. I don't know why Brunson isn't in charge, but he's not. So Mike and Danny are trying to look over the footage, and they can't track the illegal activity. There's entirely too many people working together. There are entirely too many moving parts for this to be some sort of concerted effort. And then there's new bogus money coming from another bank. Or another bank of play. So it's not like it could be a ring of people that are coming through the casino and passing it. So where is it coming from? Ed is trying to stay focused on this case. Danny very specifically is telling him he's got to get his affairs in order, and he's got to do it in the next 24 hours. And Ed, in an effort to keep Danny here, talks to Danny and says, you've got a real case for not reporting. And I think this is the first time, this is one of the few times Danny actually confronts the idea of not going. when he tells Ed, what are you talking about not reporting?
Well, I'm afraid this is bigger than I thought. I mean, Danny, look, you and I are gonna have...
I ship out in less than 24 hours. I got
to
to have affairs in order.
Listen, look, I've been thinking. Because of your inactive reserve status, you got a good case for not reporting.
What are you talking about, not reporting?
I can make a few phone calls, you know?
Can I talk to you outside for a minute? Door!
What's going on? Nothing. I just need your help with these counterfeit bills, that's all.
I ship out in less than 24 hours. I need to get my affairs in order.
Or Danny asks Ed what's going on. Why is he, and Ed just says, I just need help with these counterfeit bills. And Ed, he's got the look on his face. That's James Caan. That's how great an actor James Caan was. He's got this look on his face. He's badly playing dumb. He doesn't want Danny to go. None of us want Danny to go. He doesn't want Danny to go. That's not an option for Danny. He says he ships out in 24 hours. He needs to get his affairs in order. And that's that. And Ed looks at him like he knows there's nothing he can say to the kid. He has asked him. He said he'll pull some strings. He'll make some calls. And Danny is going. We then whoosh through to the casino, and we pass through. As we whoosh through, we see a couple of hundreds getting passed, and there's a good chance those are counterfeit as well. And we see another 100. We were whooshing through and seeing all these different hundreds, and we see Mary with that 1,000-yard stare as she's walking through the casino, and she runs into Danny, and they both have something to tell each other. Danny gets it out first.
Oh, Mary, I need to talk to you about something.
I have to talk to you too. Somebody paid me a visit.
I ship out tomorrow morning, and I need you to help me get my affairs in order.
Affairs?
And Nikki's face goes from the 1,000-yard stare to a 5-foot, but also million-mile stare as she looks at Danny through this whole thing. That vulnerability comes right back onto her face. And she replies to Danny after he says, in case something happens, she says,
Nothing is going to happen to you, Danny. You're going to be fine.
Just in case.
Okay.
And then she brushes, oh my God, she brushes his hair aside. She can't stop picking at him. Danny asks her what she wanted to talk to about, and she says it wasn't important, and they walk off arm in arm. And this was very important, according to GST. He wanted to highlight how Mary is the one person in this episode not asking something from Danny. She has a huge problem on her plate. She brushed off Sam, and okay. She didn't want Sam to see her cry. Okay. And Sam obviously didn't know the details of what we know. So she also didn't want to divulge that to Sam. Fine. Danny knows. Danny was there. Danny's got a history with her father. And if she should contact anybody about this, it's Danny McCoy. But she chooses not to today because she feels like Danny needs to be given to as opposed to taken from. So we whoosh through and we see more hundreds that may or may not be counterfeited. And we whoosh through the hundreds to the front lobby, and we see Ed and Sam fix Fast Tommy and his lawyer up with a room here at the Montecito, and they're about to get them 2 rooms, but...
If you'll follow me, I'll take you to Suites.
We only need one.
And Ed gives a look, and Sam gives a look. That's terrific. Sam is starting to needle this attorney. She says,
Rumor has it you graduated Yale Law.
Cum laude.
Now listen, GST, you're not slick for that joke. You're not slick for that. I know what that means. You know what that means. You ain't slick. Anyway, Sam retorts with,
You must have been a professor favorite.
I'm sure she was. Samantha, I'm sure she was. Danny comes to talk to Ed again, and Danny tells Ed that he wants Ed to be the executor of Danny's will in case something happens. And Ed does not want to deal with this. He does not want to be involved in Danny going whatsoever. And Ed asks, what about his father? And Danny says, I'm asking you. And the reason for this is because GST reported this again. It's great, the DVD extras. Shout out to unofficial friend of the show, GST, the Puppet Master. He says that the reason for this was because Danny's father wouldn't be able to handle that right now, or at all, really. And that kind of lends some backstory to probably some of the dissent between Danny and his father after his mother had passed, because he probably wasn't able to really handle that either, at the expense of his relationship with Danny and really everything else, because he was so in love with Mrs. McCoy. And maybe any number of reasons, you know? Like, I love construction guys. I work with construction guys every day. That's my day job. But I can tell you something about them. They don't like dealing with paperwork. They don't like dealing with stuff like that. There's a reason they got big trucks and digging the dirt, because they like doing that. They don't like any of the other stuff. A lot of them detach from the other stuff. There's a whole reason why they're in the construction industry. There are proxy companies that help construction companies with their paperwork, because they don't want to deal with it. They don't even want to hire secretaries to deal with it, because the secretaries will ask them questions and they don't want to even answer those questions. They just want to farm it out to somebody else, almost automatically have it done for them. So I would imagine at this point the possibility of having to deal with that with your son after all these years of losing your wife, it's not something that Mr. McCoy wants to deal with at all. As sentimental and as aw shucksy as I mentioned that he was in the first episode, probably a more level-headed person in charge of that would be Big Ed. So we whoosh up through the elevator up to Sam leading Fast Tommy and his lawyer up to the suite. And it's not her business, but she's going to ask anyway.
Listen, it's obviously none of my business, but I'm going to go ahead and ask anyway. Do you two,
Man spent 50 years behind bars without a woman. What do you think?
Sam says, but good on you, Fast Tommy. Like, yeah, you 50, yeah, I could see it. He's a charming guy. He probably 50 years ago might have been in the running for the sexiest man in all of Sexyville. We know, of course, that is Danny McCoy, but Fast Tommy might have been in that running back then in the 50s. You kidding? He's a charmer. He's a charmer. So Ed talks to Mike about bringing him in to surveillance team, and Mike goes over the pay cut, and he doesn't really want to do it, and he's hemming and hawing. But Ed then drops the Danny bomb on him. And so after Mike tells him that he went over his claustrophobia thing, he says that...
Well, then what the heck's your problem?
Well, contrary to what people think, I actually like being a valet.
Look, I just got a lot on my plate right now. And I need you. I really need you in surveillance, okay?
Okay. But just until Danny comes back.
Now, this is the point in the DVD commentary where Josh and GST talk about one of the questions they get all the time, which is, who's the hottest woman on Las Vegas to them? Who is their favorite Montecito queen? I've got mine. I already told you who mine are. I am partial to Mary and Nessa. Those are my two, and they, on any given day, you can ask me, and one will win over the other, and vice versa. And they said that they don't have a favorite. They're just too beautiful. They can't make the decision. They like them all in their own way. Very diplomatic answers. Very, very diplomatic answers. GST says it's like asking which of his children are the favorite, etc. Sure. However, If you look at many of these, and this is something I picked up doing this show, if you look over many of these episodes in this first season, Sam gets a lot of shine. Even in episodes that don't focus on Sam. Even in stories that don't focus on Sam. Sam gets a lot of shine. Now, that's not anything wrong. Again, everyone on this cast is incredibly talented. And we've seen range from all the queens so far. Like, they've all got chops. But I have noticed Sam gets a lot of attention. There are other... I know we talked about how Nessa didn't get a lot of attention at first. And Delinda would be pulled back on a couple episodes. We didn't necessarily talk about that all the time. And now we get these episodes where everybody plays more, and that's great. But in a lot of the episodes where they didn't, Sam was very front and center on the Queen side. Very front and center. So I think subconsciously GST might have had a favorite at that point. For various reasons. Again, not taking anything away from Vanessa. She's amazingly talented. I'm just saying the Puppet Master might protest too much. So we have Nessa playing the role of the peacenik here who doesn't want Danny to go back to the war and how she doesn't agree with what's going on out there.
So you're gonna go?
Yes, mine is not the question one.
That is a crock of crap, Danny. Just don't go.
It's called AWOL.
Well, according to IMDb, and I'm no military expert, according to IMDb, that technically would be, when he's not reporting for duty, not called AWOL. As a Marine, it would be called UA, or unauthorized absence. According to IMDb, I'm not Major Dad. I just read the notes that I'm given. So she's saying that he shouldn't go, he doesn't have to go.
No, it's called standing up for what you believe in.
Who says I don't believe in it?
And do you?
I believe in the core.
And that is a common answer. That is something that has been laid down in this episode quite well, actually. And that's a good acting choice by Josh here in those scenes. He's doing he's very understated in those moments, in those far away moments where he's really mentally preparing himself to go back. It's not going back isn't the option. That's off the table. He's mentally preparing himself to go back. And the idea of not going back doesn't compute. That doesn't compute at all to Josh or to Danny. And that is a good acting choice on his part. And Nessa asks, you don't believe in the war, do you?
All I know is there are guys coming home in body bags on a weekly basis, and some of them are my buddies. So if the Marines think I can save at least one of them, then I'm going.
That is a very Marine thing to say. Again, we're not talking about politics. That's just a very Marine, just plain and simple. That's a very Marine thing to say. That's a very Danny thing to say. Because another thing that's been laid down on this series through this entire episode, or through this entire series, yes, and season, is that Danny is loyal. Danny is loyal. He is loyal, maybe to a fault. He is loyal. And that he is a soldier. He is a Marine through and through. Danny is always faithful. At that exact moment, because everything happens at the same time, Nessa and Danny both get dueling calls about more counterfeit bills being pulled in, and they both are on their way, but Danny is almost tackled. He's almost tackled by Sam, who comes up and tells Danny that Mary's father was in the casino.
Hey, listen, you need to find Mary. Her father showed up. She freaked out.
Her father was here? When?
Just a little while ago.
Where is he now?
Well, I don't know. She had him kicked out of the casino.
Why don't you take a little break?
Yeah, that's a good idea. You go stretch the legs, wash the face, refocus.
There you go.
I assume you're interested in large amounts of money.
It's Vegas, who isn't?
If you like the podcast and you want to help support it, you can send a Cash App, join our Patreon or Subscribe Star, or buy us a coffee. Just search The Podecito on all those platforms. So it's Mike and Ed in the surveillance room, and Mike is going over the footage, and he is shown that there is no connection to the people whatsoever. They have no connection. They didn't run in the same circles. They didn't meet each other before they sat down at the table. Background check, all upstanding citizens. No mutual connections whatsoever. So how did they all pass the bills? We then see Delinda and Mystique trying to set up the going away party for Danny, and she is trying to make sure that everything is as amazing as possible. She then sits next to Ben Yellen, who I'll just say in this episode is not the greatest actor in the world, but he's also very young here, and he really hadn't broken just yet. So there was a lot of, this is like one of the first like real big major things for him to do. So, and he's a musician. He's not an actor, but he does have one acting credit. He has one acting credit. He was Dr. Roger Spade in an episode of House in 2005. He's got that. That is his acting credit. Aside from this, they don't count this because he's just being himself. And I don't count it either. But he's got that one acting credit, Ben Yellen. And just one scene here where Delinda is asking Ben to play extraordinarily well for Danny. Oh, Ben is going to break our hearts in a minute. This is a heavy... Take a breather. This is a heavy episode. We're going to get some laughs right here as Mike sits down with Mitch to go over the footage again and isolate all the individuals and figure out where they came from. Go backwards and figure out where each of them came from on a separate monitor.
Now, run all the playback in reverse. Let's see where they all came from. No matter how many times I see it, it still makes me laugh.
Man, James LeJour is fantastic. Anyway, we cut to a meeting in the conference room with Ed and the lawyers, and the female lawyer again comes in with that female lawyer in real. I bet you, aside from this dealing with Ed, in the headcanon that I have, she's wanted to be cool so much in her head. She's really wanted to be cool. She really did. I think like every bit of her drips like she wanted to be cool, and so she says stuff like,
And his lawyer? I'd like to bitch slap her. What?
she wants to be cool so bad, but the lawyers are going over things and they can't figure out what to do with Fast Tommy other than bury him, and Ed doesn't want to do that. Danny is walking with Mary now, and Mary is going to meet with her father, and Danny doesn't think it's a good idea.
I don't think you should talk to him.
Maybe I should.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Maybe it'll help.
Help who?
Me?
God, Nikki Cox is just amazing. Do you see the way she stopped in her shoulders and the way she looked at? Oh, give her the Emmys. Give her an Oscar too. Why don't you? So Danny agrees, but only if he goes with her. And she says she agrees. And Danny, always on the clock, spots another bad 100 being passed at the table, and he's got to go to work, and he tracks it down, but
I'll be right back. I want to be there when you talk to him. Okay?
he cradles Mary's head, and he says, please don't talk to him without me. Kisses her forehead. Oh, D&D, you're going to be in a bad spot for a minute, D&D shippers. I'm sorry. You're just hunker down. Just hunker down. This is dairy territory right now. We whoosh back up to the surveillance, and Mike has figured it out. He talks to Ed, and he says he's got the connection, and he has Mitch run the footage back, and it cracks Mike up again. Because why wouldn't it?
Wait a minute, you followed every one of them?
I didn't follow them where they're going, but where they've been. Hit it, Mitch.
You got it.
It gets me every time. Come on, Mr. D, that's funny.
And at this point in the DVD commentary, we do hear that the surveillance room is run by an entirely different room to run all the monitors and stuff, which is a very cool little detail. As we hear that, Danny comes back in and he tracks down where it's all coming from. It's the ATMs. And Mike agrees, the coolest guy in Vegas, and he shows Ed.
All I want to know is how is the counterfeit money getting into my casino?
It's the ATMs.
We whoosh down the night skyline of the Montecito, and oh, that is just of the Vegas Strip, and that's just a beautiful sight. Fast Tommy and his lawyer are at the craps table. They've had a wardrobe change, and Tommy says,
Baby needs new shoes.
Ooh, baby needs more than that.
Winning at the craps table, everybody's a winner. It's unbelievable. We whoosh back up to surveillance, and we're going to talk about the ATM scam, you see. Ed, Mike, and Danny go over the details of the scam, and they track down who loads the ATMs. But the service providers, everything seems to be on the up and up, at least so far. As that happens, Danny sees Mary's father is back in the building and talking to Mary.
Times a day.
I'll be back in a minute.
So Ed and Mike go over the issue, and turns out one of the ATM guys or a couple of the ATM guys got some sort of a record. At least one of them does. Time for passing bad checks, counterfeit checks. And Mike goes over the idea that maybe it's going further than them.
Well, just because he's got a record doesn't necessarily mean it's him.
So it could be way down the line? They pick up the cash from the bank, right?
That is correct, in an armored truck. 2 guys stay in the truck, 2 guys load the machine.
If this goes all the way back to the bank, we may never figure out who's switching the counterfeit bills for the real cash.
Yeah, well, if it's one of these 4 guys, and they got away with it once, it's more than likely they try it again. They have a tendency to get a little greedy.
And it could conceivably go further than them, but not for the sake of this episode. We got to wrap this up. It can't go further than that. It can't go into the bank. It can't go. We are deep into this episode. We don't have enough time to start a whole nother case that deep into it. So, and even if we did, it wouldn't concern the Montecito. It would concern actual authorities. The Secret Service would take it from there. Maybe the FBI would take it from there. But the Montecito would be wildly out of their jurisdiction at that point. We zoom all the way down to the Belisara. And this scene, this is so heavy. This is so heavy. Danny and Mary are on one side of the table, and Mary grabs Danny's hand for support, which is an amazing visual, and one that GST threw in there because the scene needed a little something extra. Busfield agreed, the prolific director Busfield agreed, and they start talking. And Mr. McCoy wants to talk without Danny, but we see Mr. McCoy up close for the first time, and he really does personify. This is a talented actor. I knew him first from Grace Under Fire. He's a talented actor. You've seen him in a whole bunch of stuff. We're not going to go over his resume right now because this isn't the last time we're going to see him on the show. Believe it or not. But he has got this look that you really had to be there in the 2000s to understand. He's got this mix of sort of low-level congressman, low-level politician, maybe not even congressman, but also low-level not even televangelist, but he looks a lot like in this scene. So what's interesting here about how Mr. Connell looks is this was filmed in 2004, probably, right? Early 2004. He looks a lot like disgraced Pastor Ted Haggard, who reached his peak of popularity and disgrace after this. Not long after this, but after this, 2006. And I wonder if the writers knew about Ted Haggard and put him in there, but it was a fairly common-ish sort of look that he had to those kinds of... Remember how we talked about in the What Happens in Vegas Stays in Vegas episode with the congressman and the dirge of disgraced congress people, right-wingers who have this certain look to them? He's got this look and he's got it down. And that does help sort of cement the unease and creepiness that we as the viewer and Mary feels at the same time. Mr. Connell comes in to say,
I came to say I'm sorry for, you know.
What an acting choice. What an acting choice. And GST talks about it in the commentary, how that's fairly true-ish to life, because predators, pedophiles often can't even really say it, dismiss it, like it's not necessarily a big thing, like, that indiscretion, I just whoopsied, and the look, I just gotta let a lot of the, I don't want to interfere here, but I gotta let some of these scenes play. That's a great acting choice here. And Mary, the facial changes that Nikki Cox goes through, the vocal intonations that she goes through, the emotions,
How can you say you're sorry when you can't even say the words?
I need you to forgive me, Mary.
Forgive you? Maybe you should ask God to forgive you.
He already has.
And that also is, that interchange there is, so it's picture perfect. And that is also a thing that happens very often with pedophiles who go back into religion or try to, whether truthfully, wholeheartedly, or not. And Mary retorts with,
Oh, I don't think so. Not for what you did to me.
Mary, I was...
Don't you dare make excuses for what you did. I was a little girl. You were my father.
If there's one thing in that scene, if I had my druthers, if there's one choice I would make in that scene different for the prolific Timothy Busfield, is I wouldn't have cut to Danny that first time. I would have stayed in that moment with Mary. Unless there was a technical issue or reason why you had to, maybe she was in it too long, whatever. If not, if we were able to cut here immediately, I'd have stayed in that moment. Don't let up on that moment. I'd have stayed in that moment. But he decided to cut to Danny initially, and then Danny's again as he says he's going to go. And Mr. Connell says,
Mary,
I've remarried. I met a woman at church. I'd love for you to come meet my wife and kids. Come over for Sunday dinner.
You have kids?
2 little girls.
Does your wife know what you did to your first little girl? You tell her or I will.
Mary, wait. No, you can't tell her. Mary, I've changed. I'm not that man.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's so intense. It's so deep. It's so intense. And then Danny, again, being always faithful, tells Mr. Connell to his face. Actor's name is Casey Sander, by the way. He tells Mr. Connell to his face,
I told you the last time I saw you that if you ever touched her again, I'd kill you. And I will.
and I don't know, what could he possibly have been expecting? Like, did he psych himself up? He couldn't have gone to a support group and had them psych him up. Could he have psyched himself up? He had to, right? Because his wife doesn't know. Did he tell his minister? Who psyched him up for this? It might have been the minister. Because very often they do preach more towards the reconciliation and the forgiveness and all that. So very possibly. But we whoosh over. That's a hard transition, man. We whoosh over to Mike putting a pin camera in the ATM so that they can better see the the security guys making the switch with the money. And Fast Tommy Pallone comes in via Sam, and Ed suggests a man-to-man talk.
Let's go up to my office and talk.
Man to man.
Yeah, like the old days. No lawyers.
Meanwhile, the lawyers are going nuts in the conference room. Danny is telling Mary that she needs to tell the wife, and Mary says she can't. And Danny says, I don't think you have any other choice. Mary comes clean to Danny that...
Dude, you are the only one I ever told. And that's the way I want to keep it.
And then Mary goes back to... Because she didn't ask... By the way, she did not ask Danny to get involved in her situation. Danny found out. She did not ask Danny. She's continuing with the trend of not asking Danny for anything and continuing with the trend of taking care of Danny despite everything else. Putting her everything aside for this man. But she says, with a smile on her face...
You were right. You were. I never should have talked to him. Okay. And I will see you later at Mystique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that is brushing it off again. Trying to cope with it just... Everything's happening at the same time. Because Danny overhears the lawyer talking on her cell phone, talking about how she's going to play Fast Tommy for his money. But she doesn't know that Danny's listening. I don't even think she met Danny. And in comes Danny's dad, who is told by Danny because Mary called him. Danny didn't call him. Mary called him. And you see a quick glance over between Mary and Danny because Danny knows that Mary called him and not him. And Danny tells his father that he's been recalled. And immediately you can see Mr. McCoy is having a hard time kind of handling it.
Recalled?
I'll be okay.
Yeah, I know you will. Just not so sure about me.
And before we go any further in this scene, we have to talk about Danny's dad. For you see, not only is this the finale of the season 1 of Las Vegas, this is the finale of John Terry on this show, apparently. Now, I thought, and it's been a while since I've seen season 2, I thought he comes back for season 2. But apparently, according to IMDb, this is his last episode. So, let's talk about John Terry. John Terry, trademark, apparently, is him playing father figures of people who are suspected of being untrustworthy or evil. Danny's not evil, unless you consider his dance moves weapons of mass destruction, which, maybe. John Terry, this amazing actor, his first credited role was as Gerald McMahon in Forever Fernwood in 1977. He was in Full Metal Jacket as Lieutenant Lockhart. How about that? He was in Of Mice and Men as Slim in 1992. That's a fantastic movie. Although there's a love scene in there that's unnecessary, but it's the 90s. They did that with a whole bunch. They did that with a couple of different literary works. He was also in 8 episodes of ER as Dr. David Div Svetec. He was also in a movie of the week with Meredith Baxter Birney, Swoosie Kurtz, called Betrayed, the story of 3 women as Rob Nelson. He was co-starred with Mrs. DeLine herself, Cheryl Ladd, in Kiss and Tell in 96 as a TV movie. He was also in Second Noah in 96 with former guest star David Hugh Kelly from What Happens in Vegas Stays in Vegas, the former congressman, yes. He was in Bad as I Want to Be, the Dennis Rodman story, as Rodman's stepfather at some point, if you can believe that. He did he did Las Vegas for just 4 episodes. And this is the 4th one? That's it? That's hard to believe, but that's the notes we got here. He then did the CSIs, Miami and New York. He did a couple other things. He also did Lost for 19 episodes. That's a big place. You might know him as Dr. Christian Shepherd. And the last credited role that our beloved John Terry has to his credit is the fortune theory in 2013 as Howard Fitzroy. I hope that means that John Terry is enjoying his retirement. I can't track him down at all on social media. He doesn't have social media, and it's probably of the age where it's like, I don't need social media, especially if he retired from acting. Godspeed, John Terry. You brought so much to the show. You brought so much to this character. You brought so much to the backstory of Danny and the kind of person he is and how he became that person. It was clear that Danny became that person in huge part to Larry McCoy. And you could see that every time you are on screen with Josh Duhamel. And I for one, if no one else is giving you your flowers for what you did on Las Vegas, the Podecito is gonna give them to you right here. Hopefully somebody gets at least this clip to John Terry. Godspeed, John Terry. Thank you so much for your service to Las Vegas. We hardly knew ye. 4 episodes, we certainly hardly knew ye. But thank you so much. This isn't the last time we're going to see John Terry in this episode, but since we're here, we had to say it.
I think you need to find yourself a nice lady friend. What makes you think I haven't? I hope you have.
And let me tell you something, Danny. That's the conversation I had with my dad, too. In Vegas, in fact. And Mr. McCoy is flabbergasted that Danny has to report tomorrow morning. But he is told by Danny as Danny chases a snatch and run that they're having something at Mystique a little bit later. Danny chases down the snatch and run guy very quickly, which is one of the more common occurrences in Vegas and really anywhere. Snatch and run is one of the more common attempted crimes. And he doesn't get away with it this time. Ed is watching the whole scenario go down on the screen there, and he's got a morose look on his face. And Mike really clocks it at that point that he's worried about Danny. And for the first time, Ed admits it. He admits that he's a little worried.
Worried about Danny, aren't you? Danny, no. He's a Marine. He'll take care of himself. I'm a little worried, yeah.
You know something?
No, it's classified. I don't know a thing. But, just a little worried.
And then Mike tries to bring some levity again, but it's not going to work. And it's time to go to the ATMs. So they go to the cameras, and they see the transfer, the guards coming in with the money, and we see how the transfer goes down with the ATMs. The guy is pulling them from the fake ATMs from his vest and putting them into the machine while he transfers the real money from the bag into a separate bag or a separate pouch in the bag that allegedly is supposed to go back to either probably the bank and probably not the facility that he works for. So Mike and Ed dash out of the office all the way down there. We whoosh past them through security and into the fight. Mike is tasked with staying there and calling for backup, and it's Ed and Danny who take down the bad guys one more time.
No! Security ATM!
Suspects headed north through slots 15 toward Bella Sarah.
Thanks.
Say goodnight, Gracie.
Apparently, James Caan was 8th degree black belt, and he's using the moves here. Great little fight scene there, and we see Luis come in to give a wrap-up of the situation that we just saw. The Secret Service is going to be called in. The counterfeit cash has been accounted for. And we got a going-away party for Danny McCoy that Ed does not want any part in. Danny tells Ed what he heard. Ed already knows, but suggests that Fast Tommy doesn't know. And we whoosh back up to Ed's office with Fast Tommy and the attorney. Ed says that he set up the account and the money to go through, but he wants one last man-to-man talk with Fast Eddie without the attorney. So the attorney takes off, and it's Ed and Fast Tommy. So Tommy obviously is faster than people give him credit for, including his attorney, because Tommy knows that what the lawyer's in it for.
You know, she just wants some money, right?
I know. But don't worry, she'll earn it.
It's a lot of money.
Hey, I'm giving all that money to local kids' charities.
The lawyer know about the plan?
Maybe it'll help some kids avoid the same mistakes I made.
That's great.
Grazie.
Prego.
Let's let the dealer shuffle the deck for a second and we'll be right back. If you're ready to find your fitness family focused on being knowledgeable, being open-hearted, getting results, and having an elevated experience, then you're ready for KORE. That's Core Nutrition Fitness. The NASM certified personal trainers at Core cater to all fitness levels, ages, and body types. Whether it's the Gluteus Maximus and Queen Camp classes for the ladies, or the Minute Monday weight training for everyone. If you're in the Los Angeles area and ready to build better health and great friendships, the Core Fitness family is the place for you. Go to CoreNutritionFitness.com now for details. That's KORE NutritionFitness.com. What a class act there, Tommy and Ed. But we then cut to Mary in what appears to be her office in the Montecito, making the call to her father's new wife.
Mrs. Connell? Hi, this is Mary Connell. There's something you should know about your husband, my father.
And we immediately fade into the going away party for Danny, and Ben Yellen is at the piano playing on all versions of the show that you will watch his song Falling Down. Now, he did rewrite some of the lyrics, and you will hear where he rewrites some of the lyrics specifically for this show. And again, he just starts breaking all our hearts. And apparently, according to the DVD, this scene took the waterworks out of everybody. Apparently, Timothy Busfield was even behind the screen tearing up. People that were watching on the monitors were tearing up. Crew members were tearing up. Cast members could hardly hold it together as Danny, in seemingly almost the middle of his party, is saying his goodbyes to the people that he loves. He gives a hug to Sam, almost envelops her completely. And we cut to Luis is there, leaned up against the piano, and Mary. Oh, Mary's face. You cut in and out to Mary's face through this whole thing, and she is... It's just all the raw emotions are just right at the surface. Danny talks to Nessa one more time.
You never did show me the sights of Vegas, Danny.
I will when I get back, I promise.
And we pan over to Luis on the piano, leaned up against the piano again, and he looks down at his drink and he glances over at Mary. Now remember, I told you to keep track of Luis and Mary through the first season, through those last few episodes of them. And if I recall, the last little bit that we heard about Luis and Mary was 2 episodes ago, episode 21, right? I don't think we heard anything we didn't during the Big Bang. It was 2 episodes ago that we heard about Luis and Mary. Luis is right next to Mary, and he is looking at Mary's face, and he knows what we know, what we all know, deep down in our hearts, that Mary is in love with that man. Unfortunately, not Luis. She is in love with Danny McCoy, and her heart is breaking for the true love of her life, Daniel Zakiah McCoy. You can see she is completely breaking. Mike and Danny toast one more time as Danny hands over the keys to his mom's car. And we get some backstory here. Apparently, the car was his mother's. And we get some backstory from GST on the DVD that that car kind of sat in the garage for years after his mother died. And fixing it back up was what brought Danny and his father back together and had them connect again after her death. But after the car was fixed up, that's when they went back to not really being... She really was the glue that held the two of them together. And fixing the car kind of helped bring them back a little bit as they were working on it. But once that was complete, then they went back to their kind of separate, familial, kind of cordial ways that is very common with father-son relationships. Trust me. That's what makes this a bigger deal. That Danny is handing over literally his prized possession to Mike to take care of him. That and the fact that, remember earlier in the season, a couple of times, he didn't want Mike to touch his car because he didn't want Mike to quote unquote soup it up and screw it up.
I want you to take care of my car while I'm gone.
Danny, that was your mother's car. That's the last thing you have of hers. Why don't you just put it in storage?
Because it needs to be driven. I want you to have it if I don't come back. All right? And, please.
I couldn't.
If you're not tearing up right now watching this, I don't know what to tell you. And we cut back to Mary again, and she's not holding it together.
Hey, buddy.
Oh, your mother would be proud of you. Make it back in one piece. I will.
And that, unfortunately, is the last time we see Larry McCoy. Godspeed, Larry. Godspeed. And it's Danny being met with Delinda one more time on his way out. And in the commentary, GST said that if you had told him in the beginning of the season that Molly Sims was going to make him cry at the end of the season with her acting, he wouldn't have believed you. Because this is her first big acting gig, her first steady acting gig. And the fact, her growth, and that is a huge nod to Molly Sims. Her growth over the course of this season, astounding growth from someone who's never really done this to being at this point where you're bawling your eyes out when you're watching this. As she says to Danny,
Mom's gonna be upset she didn't get to say goodbye.
Still in New York?
You know how the DeLine girls love to shop? I spent my entire childhood hugging my father goodbye, praying to God he'd come back to us. And he always did. Come back to us, Danny.
Delinda saying that Ed's hiding in the office, and here's Ben yelling, breaking our hearts.
Oh, Mary, you always understood me. Please, Mary, forgive me now.
Oh, God. Jeez. Yelling. Oh, my God. So much raw emotion. Oh, my God. This is a heavy episode. Danny goes up to see Ed in his office. Ed didn't want to go down. He looked like he was on the verge of crying before Danny came up there. And Ed says the strong thing to say, I'll see you when your tour is over. And that's a good shot, too, because as he extends the arm, you get to see that tattoo that Ed's got on his forearm. And one last warning from Ed.
You be safe, huh? I will. Listen, please, don't try being no friggin' hero over there.
And one last plea from Danny.
If anything happens to me, do not let them leave me there. You promise me you're gonna make sure I get back home.
Ed is barely standing. Ed is barely standing up after that. Apparently, the intensity of that scene, of all these scenes here at the end of this, was amped up by a whirlwind season for Las Vegas, that they may have gone back and forth with how much NBC believed in them, but NBC did build them an entire set, and NBC did give them an extra episode, apparently. So this season was supposed to have 22 episodes. They gave them 23. So that shows just how trusted Las Vegas was to the NBC consortium, at least around that time. We then see Danny leaving the Montecito, and we see a big sign that says Godspeed Danny McCoy from the Montecito as Danny is walking the strip. We get a note here about how it's hard to control the environment when you're shooting in Vegas like that. And so most of their scenes, that's why they had to build a set and shoot it all in LA, or most of it in LA. Meanwhile, Danny is looking back on the strip as he's in a cab on his way somewhere, and Ed makes a call.
Danny McCoy, Daniel, Marine Corps, serial number 986-654320. Right? I need to know where he's shipping out to. Thanks, Doug.
And all the questions come running through my mind. Will I see this another way? The simple truth is I'm falling down. And I don't want to drag you through the bottom.
And this is a note here from GST, where he said that it's a writer's almost instinct to give them more dialogue to work with, but James is such a pro that he doesn't need that. He conveys so much in without words and in just a few gestures, just a glance of the hand across his brow, just the look of sorrow on his face. He conveys so much. How do you go from that scene to the next scene? Well, you have it where Danny ends up at Mary's house with his go bag, and Mary is in her night robe, and she lets him in with a smile on her face, a knowing smile on her face.
Oh, I don't want to drag you through the
Actually, we talked about this in the night the lights went out in Vegas. How Mary's place was his last stop before he shipped off the last time. So part of me believes that smile is knowing that this is almost a tradition for Danny to come and spend the night with Mary before he ships off. But part of me doesn't want to believe that. And this scene, we see the two sexiest people in all of Las Vegas, the sexiest man and all the sexiest men in the sexiest land, and the sexiest woman, the most beautiful woman, one of the most beautiful women in all the land of all the beautiful women, making out in this apparently converted living room of this house. This was Nikki Cox's last night of filming, not Josh Duhamel's. Josh had a couple other things to do, but we finally get to see Danny and Mary make love. And as they do, we hear the musical cue. On the original version, you hear Ends of the Earth by Dirty 3. 3 is spelled out. On the DVD, you hear a muted, what sounds like production song, but it's very close to the other songs. It's very in that wheelhouse. They also kept the music very close in this scene here, which is good. On the streaming services, you hear Inner Peace by Philip John Gregory. Inner Peace and Ends of the Earth, both fantastic. Add them to your playlists that you play when you play. what else can you say but just the two sex, it's the two sexist people making love, but also it's the culmination. And I swear this is dairy bait right here, because all of us were dying for this. I remember the first time seeing this. I think I was in a PC cafe when I watched this for the first time, and when I saw it, I audibly was like, yes, finally, yes, it's about time, you idiot, you finally did it. And we fade out of that scene to Mary lying on her stomach as she's asleep, and she's kind of rattled awake. And GST calls this the greatest back on television, and I'm hard-pressed to argue with the Puppet Master about that. Mary wakes up, and she looks over, and at her pillow next to her, she doesn't see Danny there. And this is a note that I realized, is that she then... Look. Okay, so did you see what she did? She turned her head into the pillow and whispered Danny's name into the pillow. You know, almost as if feeding it to the pillow so that when she lays her head down on the pillow every night, it almost echoes back to her via the pillow. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a little small poetic thing there. It's just a great, Nikki Cox was amazing. She was just amazing here. So she whispers his name, and then she looks over, and he's there. But he's in his uniform.
You're beautiful.
That is just, come on. All the mushy feels. And Danny in his uniform, striking just an amazing figure, sits down next to her. And the look she gives him, again, as he's about to take off, she pulls him down and says...
I love you, Danny McCoy. I always have. And I always will.
And on the DVD commentary, Joshua Duhamel says, say it back to her, 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 you coward. Josh Duhamel, in season 2, believes Danny should have said it here. GST is like, oh, you think you should have said it? Yes, Gary, yes. And so, he doesn't. He just looks at her. Almost as if he doesn't want to say it. Almost as if he doesn't want to commit to it. Almost as if he doesn't want to fall as head over heels in love as his father did, which ended up breaking him because because Danny's mother didn't come back. Again, he's still scared. Just like we talked about in the night the lights went out in Vegas. But he does kiss her. Hard on the lips. She kisses him back. He kissed her back. And he does have to go. And she sees him out. And she picks at him one last time. Oh my gosh, she can't stop picking at and touching her man. And Mike is there with Danny's car, waiting for him to take him to the base. And Nikki looks like she's been crying for a while. And who can blame her? But she's got a smile on her face as he goes off. And this great back and forth between Mike and Danny here.
How did you know I'd be here?
Man, where else would you be?
Exactly, Mike. Where else would he be? Where else would he be? Nowhere. There was nowhere else Danny McCoy should be than in the arms of Mary Connell. Man, where else would you be indeed? And Mary watches Danny drive out the driveway and a wistful look on her face as we whoosh to Danny with that 1,000-yard stare. It's a different type of 1,000-yard stare now as Danny and Mike take the strip one last time.
Put a candle in the window. But I feel I've got to move. Oh, I'm gone. I'll be coming home soon. Long as I can see the light.
Under the chorus of Long as I Can See the Light by Creedence Clearwater Revival, bookending this episode. And this is just an amazing scene. This is an amazing scene. This is an amazing shot. This is the Vegas I loved. It's so beautiful. I just watch it.
Pack my bag and let's get moving. 'Cause I'm bound to drift a while. Oh, I'm gone. You don't have to worry, no. Long as I see the light.
And we bookend the episode with the same line that we ended the first episode on. We bookend the season with it. Danny in his car saying,
God, I love this town.
Long as I can see the light. Long as I can see the light.
as they zoom off into the sunrise. So, according to GST, that bookend was he's saying it for a different reason now. And also, according to GST, once his task is done, he has a choice to stay in the war or go home. But it was a big thing to the offices of Las Vegas. They got calls, they got asked all the time. Anybody who watched the show, is Danny coming home? Is Danny coming home? Everybody was talking about, is Danny coming home? Everybody was talking about Danny and Mary. Everybody was crying about they got letters about Danny and coming home. And I understand it because this episode is incredibly, I'm surprised I got through this podcast without tearing up. It is incredibly intense. And I forgot how intense this was until I had to watch it as many times as I had to watch it to get the notes that I had to get for this episode. Oh my gosh. This is... So because of the intensity of the episode, because it made me feel all the feels for as long as it did, all the way through, as consistently as it did, because we got all the things out of the way, I would go out on a limb here and say that Always Faithful, Season 1, Episode 23, of our collective favorite show, Las Vegas, is a 10 out of 10 episode. It is too much to not be. It is too much not to be. As much as I love Strange Life of Bob, and I do, this is too much. This is too much not to be a 10. This is, it's too intense not to be a 10. It's too, the pacing is fantastic. The acting is off. Everybody brings their whole ass A game for this one. Even the minor characters, the attorneys are funny. It is just, I can't say enough about this episode. It's a super intense episode. It really and truly is. And the last time we see John Terry, we see everyone coming to play. We see a vulnerable Ed for the first time, not the last time, but for the first time. The acting chops of Molly Sims. If we're talking about most improved, oh my God. The music. Been yelling with that damn song. Oh, I can't get it out of my head. And I want to because it's entirely too intense. I should not be driving down the freeway almost with a tear in my eye thinking about Mary understanding Danny. 10 out of 10. 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 You don't have to twist my arm for it. It's 10 out of 10. As far as I'm concerned, it's 10 out of 10. But my opinion does not matter. My opinion, opinion of schminion. Your opinion is the one that matters. I want to hear what you think about this episode, Always Faithful. Do you think it's 8.3 out of 10? Do you think it's 4.5 out of 5 chips? Do you think it's 10 out of 10? Or do you think it's something different? You tell me what you think about this episode in all the places you can, including Reddit, including Facebook, including the Facebook group, including on Twitter at the Podecito. Please support the show any way you can. If you don't have the means to support the show monetarily, there are other things you can do. You can share it. Sharing is the most important thing. Sharing is caring. You can share the show that way. If you do have the means and you want to or if you don't have the means, you can, and you still want to support via the Patreon, you could be a guest like Angie. If you do have the means, you could be anything from a valet to an entertainment manager to a whale. We have entertainment manager. That's Anthony. Thank you for that, Anthony. I want to give a special shout out to all the people who've watched and or listened to the podcast. All these episodes, you are greatly appreciated. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. We are not done yet. No, we are not. We have 4 more seasons to go. It's going to be a fantastic ride. The next episode that we're going to cover is Season 2, Episode 1. Have You Seen the Rain? Oof. Oof. What an episode that one is. I don't know that it's a 10, but it's definitely an interesting episode. And it's an episode that we're not going to cover next week. It's going to come to you in 2 weeks. If you're watching the free version, it'll come to you when it's completed. It might be completed before then. And that's another reason that you might want to support via the Patreon. And I'm going to push the Patreon right now because Buy Me a Coffee and Subscribe Stars seem to be not doing what they are supposed to be doing. So the best ways to support are via Patreon, if you're monetarily able to. Best ways to support is via Cash App or Venmo. And also by helping to support the advertisers. You know, let them know that the Podecito sent you is also a good way to support. But we will, I'm in 2 weeks, as I mentioned in the last episode, to not retool, but sort of give the Podecito a makeover almost like the Montecito got in between seasons. You know, we fix up a little bit of the infrastructure. We do a couple things here and there. We add a couple elements. You know what I mean? We streamline some aspects of the show to make it more, make it easier to produce, if we're being quite honest. make it easier to produce, if we're being quite honest. But also to kind of get ourselves a little bit of a head start on the next season. So in 2 weeks' time is when the next time you're going to see or hear from the Podecito. In the meantime, what you can do when that sharing is have all your friends that you know catch up on the Podecito. And I appreciate you joining me on this journey through our collective favorite show, Las Vegas. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And in the meantime, the in-between time, please take care.
No guilt, no shame, no pity. You play the game, baby, insane. it.